Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor. Today we've got the infotainment and tech breakdown on the 2024 Hyundai Sonata. In this video I'm going to show you how to pair up a phone, use Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. We're going to go through how to set up your gauge cluster, your center touchscreen, try to answer any of the questions you might have. Before we get started, I should let you know we do have a full review on the Sonata coming as well. We've got a dedicated breakdown on the Bose 12-speaker sound system and a fuel economy test on this N-Line model. So if you'd like to see any of that, check the link below. Starting right off in front of us, we've got a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster screen. Right now it's set up in our classic setup. So you've got on the left a tachometer, on the left is a speedometer, on the right is a tachometer, and no sort of digital speed in this configuration. You've got a speed limit sign on the top left center there, fuel in the bottom left with the distance to empty and digital text within that. Down on the bottom we have outside temperature and P for the gear that we're in. Way on the bottom left, it's telling us our parking brake is set and the auto hold functionality is on. We can turn that off with this button right here, and that goes away. That makes it so that if I come to a stop sign, push my foot hard on the brake, the car will hold itself until I press the accelerator pedal. On the bottom right, we have our odometer, and then within the tachometer on the right, we have our engine coolant temperature. If I use this rotary control on the left side of the steering wheel, this roller knob, I can scroll through different screens depending on what information I have brought up in the center. Right now it's giving us some driver safety functionality and there's nothing to scroll through. However, if I click this little pages button, I go to a new screen, and then you can see I've got oil temp, torque in foot-pounds, and turbo pressure in PSI, and I can scroll through and see information about this trip, information since refueling, since last reset. I get my tire pressures, and if I were to drive around, I would see them pop up, and that is it. If I press this pages button one more time, then I get a compass, and if I had a navigational route set, then I would see navigation information right there. If I hold the OK button right here, I am given some settings I can change in the center touchscreen. And most of these actually do not apply to the gauge cluster. In fact, if I want to get to most of the gauge cluster settings, I actually go home in the center touchscreen, scroll over to setup, and then go to screen layout. And that gives me the ability to change the cluster theme. Right now we are in classic, but if I press simple, then our older analog style gauges go away, and I've got a digital readout for both my tachometer on the right and speed on the left. I can also change some graphics here, style A, style B, and style C, or I can link those to the drive mode so that if I put the vehicle in sport, then I get those different gauges. If I go back into my drive mode or normal, I get the traditional gauge view. That's about all you've got for your center gauge cluster. It's fairly simple. I'm kind of surprised that we've got this whole 12.3-inch screen just in order to do this basic functionality, but hey, it works. Making our way over to the 12.3-inch center touchscreen. Now, if you have an SEL Sonata, you might have a smaller, I think it's a smaller gauge cluster screen actually. I think all Sonatas should be getting this large touchscreen here. And if you go home, this is what you're likely to see. This is sort of a home screen, and you can move these tiles around. Say you want music and media to be over on the left, you can do that. You can move the map over here. I think you could even bring in entirely different applications. Can you do that? Can I do phone projection, bring it over to the left? Yes, I can. So these are all customizable tiles that you can see by holding. I am moving around. So you're going to want to have the stuff you use most frequently way over here on your left screen. Now I will say the screen is nicely responsive and it's got a good anti-reflective coating on it. However, I find the display to be too dark. And I don't mean from a brightness perspective, I just mean from a contrast and viewing perspective. I'm sure it looks really nice at night, but in the bright daylight, it's a bit hard to see the delineation between the different menu items. Taking another look around our home screen, we've got a clock up here on the right. If you click that, it brings you to date and time settings. Typically it's just set automatically, but you could adjust your date and time manually if you would like to. And then next to that, we've got some phone information. It's telling me I have a device connected via Bluetooth. Date right in the middle of the screen. I can pull down from the center of the screen and get some quick controls, including the ability to entirely turn the screen off. I tap on the screen again and bring it back up. We've got the abilities.
Guidance will be at this volume.
to change or disable the navigational guidance, as well as navigational beeps and sounds, the illumination of the screen, which you can see I had it all the way up, to turn on quiet mode. So you got a baby sleeping or something, and it'll turn everything down to its lowest volume without disabling it. If I press the settings screen, we get even more quick controls that we can turn on or off. Say, for example, you want audio tone to be right there and quickly accessible. Then you can press that and it brings you right to your sound settings. Back on the home screen, if I press up on the top left, you get this little hamburger menu that's essentially giving you any quick settings you should get to depending on the menu that you're in. So I'm going to start, well, how should I start here? Let's start off with navigation. Let's bring up the map. It's interesting that Hyundai is still giving you a built-in navigation, because many vehicles these days are simply just making you use your phone projection for navigating, but you can still get a map up here. It works okay. You can move around okay. It's got this weird sort of waypointish thing that's telling you how far away you are from your center point as the crow flies. You can recenter yourself there. I'll show you later using voice controls how to do a little bit of navigating, but for most things I typically recommend just using your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Under the phone screen, if you have a device paired via Bluetooth, it's going to give you your recent calls, and you can click down here through to your other your contacts rather, or you could dial in a number there pretty easily. You can also view your text messages if you've given permission for it. Coming back home, let's skip over phone projection for now. We'll go into the media screen, which I should point out, you also have physical controls down here for getting to many different functions, such as the map, media, which keeps auto playing there, and home. And they are also giving you physical controls and a separate screen here for your climate controls. Definitely like that Hyundai is giving us so many different physical ways to operate the infotainment here. But going back to the media screen, right now this is how your USB drive is going to look. And then if you click right, what's the best way to do it? Right here. This toggles between your radio, if you will, your FM, your AM, your Sirius XM, and your different favorites. And then you've got here for more of your media devices like USB and the sounds of nature and Bluetooth. So if we're going back over to radio, you can scroll through all the different available FM stations and go to Sirius XM. See the same sort of thing here. I want to go to the blend, click on that, and then I believe if I go right there, then I have the ability to play, pause, move back, favorite the channel, or enter a specific channel if I wanted to. Very easy, quick, and straightforward. Coming back home, let's go to the voice memo. This is kind of nice if you're driving along and you think of something, maybe something funny you wanted to tell somebody or something important. You can record voice memos built right into the car. We have a dedicated weather screen. This is showing me some beautiful weather here for sunny Southern California. Do we have the ability to bring up something like a radar? Let's see. Today, 6 hours. No, not seeing any sort of weather radar screen. Coming over further, you have a valet mode. If you want to give the car to a valet and limit them from seeing some of your functionality in here, then you can use a passcode and fill that out. Hyundai Pay gives you the ability to pay for parking and some other items that Hyundai wants to charge you for by setting up your credit card information built right in there. Skip over setup for the moment. Vehicle diagnostics, if you have any issues with your car, it's going to tell you right here. Maybe if you're due for an oil change or you got a check engine light or something like that, it should be able to tell you, yeah, look at this, motor driven power steering system's normal, airbag control, tire pressure monitor, all of those things it's checking out, making sure it's good to go. Maintenance, this is going to tell you a little bit more specifically how long you have until you need to get it serviced. It's saying 6,299 miles left. I would probably change my oil in an N-line every 5,000 miles, but they say do it 7,500. HD radio data, this is going to be where I'm going to be able to see my radar. Look at that. That's provided via HD radio. Nothing in the forecast, but it is nice to be able to see that. And within there, you can also get some traffic information and fuel price information. I always think that's kind of fun. Lastly, you get an online manual. You can click this, and it simply gives you a QR code to scan with your smartphone in order to get help using your vehicle. All right, let's dive into the setup now. I'm not going to show you every little nitty-gritty setting in the vehicle, but things that you might want to know. Under Vehicle, Driver Assistance, this is going to give you the ability to turn on or off or adjust various driver assistance functionalities, Say, for example, you don't like the fact that if somebody's in your blind spot, you turn your blinker on, it beeps at you. You can turn that off. Drive mode. Do you want an alert every time you change your drive mode, or do you want to customize your custom drive mode, how you want your steering and your powertrain to be set up? Under active sound design, this is going to turn on or off the fake engine noise. So right now you can hear that's normal, but if we have largest change, then we get a little bit of engine noise coming through the speakers. We're going to leave that off for now. Climate, pretty straightforward for recirculation and defrost, defog. Under lights, you can adjust the ambient lighting, how bright it is here, and what color you've got. Looks like we can choose from all different sorts of colors of the rainbow. We would be able to see that better at night. You can also have the colors linked to the drive mode, so if you put yourself in sport, it's going to give you a cool red sporty look. Under door, you can have them automatically lock as you get driving or automatically unlock when you put the car in park or turn the vehicle off. To press unlock, unlocks all the doors when the unlock button is pressed twice. Smart trunk, open the trunk automatically when approaching the trunk with the smart key. That can be kind of nice. And remote window control, I actually used this today, so you can hold down the unlock button from your key and drop the driver and passenger windows. Digital keys, you can use your smartphone, either Android or iPhone, as a key with the newer Hyundai products. So if you were an owner, you'd want to set that up. It could be a convenient way to use your vehicle. Convenience, rear occupant alert. If you have a child or a pet, I highly recommend you leave that on so that you have less of a chance of leaving them in the rear. And wireless charging system for mobile devices. If you want to turn the wireless pad off, let's say, for example, you wanted to put a credit card around here, some sort of storage for metal devices, and you weren't planning on wirelessly charging, you could have that off there. Coming back into the main setup screen, under navigation, if you plan on using the vehicle's built-in navigation regularly, I would recommend going through and checking out some of the settings in here, seeing if you want them on. For example, would you like to have the route default to the fastest way, the most economical way, or prefer the highway? Some little customizations right there. Under sound, you have your sound system adjustments. This is how you're going to do your treble and mid-range and bass, and your front, rear, left, right, fader, and balance. You can see more of that in our sound system review. Device connections, this is how you're going to pair or unpair Bluetooth devices. We'll show you that more when we pair up our iPhone later. User profile, right now we're using the guest profile, but you can set up profiles for the Sonata, and say if you have two different drivers in the household and you want their media and climate presets to be customized and fit to the driver, you might want to use those. Under voice recognition, we can reduce the number of voice recognition prompts. So I'll show you that later. When we're using the voice commands, it'll simply get to the meat and potatoes, the business, right away without using a lot of superfluous language. Screen layout, we saw that earlier for the screen, for the cluster. Under screen saver, if you want, when you turn the screen off, if you want nothing to come up or a clock. And then split screen, if you're using the split screen functionality, you can have either the weather, compass, clock, or the map show up on the side of the widescreen setup here. Under display, we can adjust the brightness of the center display. Again, we have that all the way up. And a blue light filter. If you want it a little easier on your eyes at nighttime, you can turn that on, and you can see it turns to a warmer screen. Under buttons, this is kind of nice that Hyundai has this. You have a custom button down here on the lower part for a custom physical button, and you also have a custom star button on the steering wheel, and you can set those to a lot of different functionality. I usually use it for my phone projection, so it gets me right to my Android Auto quickly, but you can have it bring you directly to something like your weather, to turn on the quiet mode, to turn on or off your Wi-Fi hotspot. You can do that, different functionalities for both the center button and the steering wheel button. You can also change some different settings for when you press the mode button on your steering wheel. Say, for example, you never use Sounds of Nature, you only go back and forth between phone projection and Sirius XM, then changing the mode button will only cycle through those two. It's nice to have that customization right there. Under cluster, we already saw most of this functionality. However, you can turn on or off the welcome sound. So when you start the vehicle, if you want it to make a little chime for you can turn that on or off there. Under data and network, you have the ability to customize, or rather connect to the Hyundai BlueLink system. So it allows you to have remote functionality via your smartphone app, and you can turn on or off the Wi-Fi hotspot. So if you pay monthly, you can use the Wi-Fi hotspot to provide an internet connection for devices in here, such as a tablet, kid's smartphone, something like that. Lastly, under general settings, any of the stuff we hadn't gotten to before, you can change your language from English, Spanish, French, and what I assume is Korean. adjust your date and time, see what software, firmware you're running, anything like that. And way at the bottom, this is important, if you go to sell your Sonata, you're going to want to reset all of your data. Now let's check out some voice commands. I don't think we have a hot wake word in this car, so you just press the button here on the steering wheel. Navigate to the nearest Starbucks.
Please say the line number of the location you want to go to.
1.
Would you like guidance to this location?
Yes. And we are off, navigating to
the route guidance
Starbucks.
Will start now.
So you can see I've got some information up in my center gauge cluster there, and I've got the map going there. Let me turn off the robust voice commands here. Where was that? Voice recognition. Reduce the number of voice recognition prompts. Now let's try that again. I'm going to cancel the route. And let's do it again. Navigate to the nearest Starbucks. 1. Yes. So essentially it just turned off the vocal replies from her. Yes. I seem to have confused it there.
The route guidance will start now.
Cancel navigation. I'm going to turn those voice prompts back on. And I remember the system being decently robust. So let's do something like, what was the Lakers score?
The final score was Los Angeles Lakers 106, Denver Nuggets 108 in Game 5 of the NBA Western Conference quarterfinals.
See?
Denver Nuggets won the series against the Los Angeles Lakers 4-1.
That's pretty robust right there. I mean, that told me more information than I asked for. It's pretty clever. And along with that, you should be able to do some more complex weather commands. What's the weather like tomorrow?
There will be sunny skies with a high of 86 degrees and a low of 64 degrees in Lake Forest tomorrow.
All right. Set the climate control to 61 degrees.
Sorry, I didn't understand that.
Set the climate control to 63 degrees.
Sorry, I didn't understand that. Try saying commands to see what voice commands can be used.
Set the temperature to 65 degrees.
Setting the temperature
All right.
to 65 degrees.
So you do have to, I guess it doesn't understand specifically how I was saying it. Tell me a joke.
Sorry, I didn't hear that clearly.
Cancel. So you can see it's not a robust AI, but it works a lot better than some of the other cars in this segment. So now let's show you Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. We'll start off with Android Auto because that's what I've got going right now. Click phone projection. Oh, for some reason it disconnected. Let's reconnect to our Pixel 8 Pro. And this is actually not the first time I've had some difficulty with the wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So I'm going to take the easy route here and simply plug in to get the Android Auto working right away. When in doubt, if you're ever having trouble with these systems, just plug in. It always makes it easier. I say that, and then yet here we go. Still having problems. Looks like I'm going to restart the car. Hopefully that helps us. I really don't understand what's going on because if you go into here in the setup, it says quite clearly, device connections. We are connected for Android Auto with the Pixel 8 Pro. And yet, nothing. So we're going to do a full disconnect of both of those. And I'm simply going to plug back in, see if we get it working this time. Well, I really don't know what's going on here. I can't get Android Auto to connect via cable or wirelessly. So that's pretty frustrating. So I'm going to have to drop some footage in here later on once I get it figured out. But let's try pairing up the iPhone using our iPhone SE3. We're going to go to the settings screen. And then in the car, we're going to scroll over to Setup
and
device connections, add
turn
new,
Bluetooth on in your mobile device in
and then
order
in the
to
phone
search.
we're going to
On your
Bluetooth,
device,
scroll all the way
select
down
name
and
that
see
matches
Sonata,
vehicle name on the screen.
pair, allow, use CarPlay, and we still seem to be having trouble getting any sort of phone projection to come up because we are paired, we can use it, but no Apple CarPlay. You can see it's not even coming up there. So I'm going to try one last thing. I'm going to use the cable to plug in the iPhone and see if that makes a difference, as long as I do have that cable. If this doesn't work, we're going to get a double splice for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto later on. Not a good look for the Sonata. Okay, phone projection is entirely dead for both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I don't know what I did to make the car upset, but it looks like I'm going to have a quiet ride home after this. So I entirely forgot to shoot a proper section of Android Auto and Apple CarPlay from the Sonata after I had it, but I am at least happy to report that after an entire night of sitting off and then coming back out to it the next day, both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto did work, but it was really frustrating that I had that entire time there where neither device would connect to the vehicle. Thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the Sonata, check the link below and also leave any comments if I can answer any questions retroactively. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.